So today we have a 2024 Polestar 2 dual motor. It's kind of the base package, so it's not as slick as mine. Black seats, black seat belts, doesn't have the cool gold seat belts. We're in the middle of Boston, so you can probably hear some trucks going by. But it's still got that distinctive, super sexy Polestar design. So good looking on the outside. So good looking on the outside. So here we are. We've made it to Polestar Boston, which is normally about an hour and a half drive, but on a Wednesday morning or any morning trying to drive to Boston, it's really a 2-hour drive. We made it here. The only downside to a Polestar is the fact that they don't have a lot of places you can bring the cars for service when they need them. But you only need to go every couple of years, so not that big of a deal. So we're going to, drop the car off. We're going to get a 2024 loaner to play with, and then we'll come back later and pick her up. So we'll check in again. There's our loaner car from Polestar Boston. Oh yeah. And it still has a pretty good sized frunk. It's not the biggest, not a Tesla, but big enough for your cables, your repair kit, your tire repair kit. It all fits in there. My car, I put this stuff in the back, and I leave the frunk for takeout food, that kind of thing. Basically still the same as, the 23 model. So not much has changed there, but it's still usable space, and they have a frunk, because I still don't get electric cars where they don't put it a frunk. I mean, that's one of the greatest things about EVs is you have no engine, so you have room for storage. Like, why would you just leave a bunch of cables and wires in there? Like, give people some extra storage, especially in a car like this. It's not super huge and doesn't really have a lot of great storage on the inside. Having this extra storage in the front, in addition to what's in the back, is pretty helpful. So, and it's just like any other, even though they're not really part of Volvo anymore, obviously that's just pretty recent. It's still pretty much like any Volvo. Double latch, push down, hood's closed, just like all Polestar 2s. This car opens as long as you have the key in your pocket. And actually, I'll show you the key. It's pretty boring. You'd think for a car that costs what this does, you would get more than this black, just plasticky key. I put a fancy cover on mine. But as long as you have the key with you, you have the kick trunk. You kick your foot under the trunk, it opens up. You actually have pretty decent storage back here. Removable shelf. It's not a bad amount of storage. I mean, obviously this is not really a family car, but for somebody like me, it's just my wife and I. If we're going on a trip somewhere, we've got plenty of room for our luggage. And it has the cool package shelf. I use this feature on my car all the time. It's got the hooks for your bags so they don't fall down, shopping bags. And then the floor raises up, and there's a good amount of storage down in there. Okay, so back seat space. Actually, a lot of people complain about the back seat of the Polestar 2, but for me, It's not too bad. I've got plenty of headroom, even when I put my head on my back. The seat is in my driving position. I've got plenty of room for my feet. Thighs are on the seat. You know, I'm not super tall, like 5'9" with shoes on. So for me, it's not bad. I suppose maybe if you were 6 feet, 6'2", this might be a little cramped back here. But as it stands, for me, it's pretty good. Like, I'm perfectly comfortable back here. I could sit back here, could put my head back, I could take a little nap. The seats don't recline or anything like that, but you have armrest, 2 cup holders, which is better than what you have in the front. So it's not bad. Because this car is built on a platform that also is shared with a gas car, it's got a transmission tunnel, and obviously there's no transmission in it. It's just stuffed with batteries. But you do have that hump, so you don't have the flat floor all the way across. But at least where I'm sitting, my feet, I'm perfectly comfortable right here, so I could ride back here for a good while. And I got the oh shit handle right there, just in case I was actually driving. Front seat, nice and comfortable too. For me, again, not super tall. Some people don't like this panel here, but again, there's this tunnel because it's got batteries in there. So some people feel like they're a little cramped in here. I'm not super tall again, so I kind of like that cockpit feel. So it could be a little tight, but I have plenty of room for my feet, hit the pedals, all that good stuff. Like, it's a comfortable seating position. I sit up high enough. I have plenty of headroom. Everything's right here. I can reach the screen, no problem. There's a volume button, play pause. There are defoggers here. So everything's right there. It's within reach. Very comfortable. Very familiar to my Polestar. Except it doesn't have cool gold seatbelts. Not everybody can have that. Okay. Getting into the Polestar 2. Close the door. Solid dunk. That's Volvo right there. So we have our main screen, which is Android Automotive. I've gone over this before in my car, but it's actually really good. You have your maps are always like right there. It's Google Maps, so it's awesome. You know, if you're looking, okay, where do I need to charge? It's going to give you all the chargers that are in your area. Very fast, medium, very fast. We're in Boston, so there's chargers up to wazoo in Boston. Not so much when you get outside of Boston, Massachusetts. Got to get better at that. But yeah, this interior, you know, it's minimalist. It's that whole Swedish minimalist thing. And again, the view out the rear mirror is not the best, but that has a lot to do with the fact that the window is kind of small back there and it's sloped. But, you know, you have all your other, your lights, your SOS. These things, these sun visors are tiny. This is a complaint that my wife has because they're small. She likes to sit low in the car, and on a sunny day when you put these down, they don't do much to block the sun if you're sitting really down low. But yeah, the interior of this car, you know, I kind of like the dark open pore wood. Mine is the lighter color. And this seat fabric, you know, I love the shape of the seats, but this seat fabric, this is the Weave Tech seat fabric that Polestar uses. A lot of car companies are starting to use some similar stuff. And I know a lot of people have said they don't like it. I don't mind it. It's not terrible. You know, it's supposed to hold up well. It's obviously, you know, sustainable. So, you know, there's no animals murdered by making these seats. And it's all made from recycled products. And it's recyclable. So I actually like this sort of black and gray interior. The one thing, though, is this. Piano black. They still do this piano black thing. I actually put a wrap on my car that looks like carbon fiber. And it doesn't pick up the fingerprints as much as the piano black does. But that's really the only piano black that this car has. And, of course, it's only got the one cup holder. And if you want the second one, it's down there. So you have to basically lift up your armrest. So if you have two people like I do, and it's my wife and I, and we have two drinks, there's no armrest. So that's one thing that, you know, I think they could probably improve on. And then, you know, the glove box is just typical glove box, not huge, not small. You've got some door pockets. There's some pockets down here, but again, because this was a transmission tunnel for the hybrid that this was platform was shared with, it doesn't go through. So really, like, there's mainly barely storage for like your sunglasses, maybe a garage door opener if you can't program it, but that's about it. And the door pockets, they're good enough to hold like a water bottle or whatever, but as long as it's flat. If you're trying to stand it up, it's probably going to fall down. So interior storage isn't the greatest. And also the wireless charging pad, or this is actually a wireless charging heater as far as I'm concerned. Like, this is basically a hot plate for your phone, because this thing, if you use this, it'll charge your phone, but after about 35, 40 minutes, your phone's going to get so hot, it's going to turn off. That happens to my phone. I get that emergency heat warning, and it shuts the phone off. So on the screen, charge, typical, you can set it down to 40% and in, 10% increments all the way up to 100. Polestar recommends 90% to preserve lifespan of the battery. My car, I usually set it at 70. Because I don't do a ton of road tripping most of the time. If I'm just, going to be driving around town, I'll set it to charge to 70 when I charge it. And honestly, I probably plug it in 2, maybe 3 times a month. And that's perfectly fine. I usually, if I get down to like 20%, 15%, something like that, I'll plug it in, charge it up to 70 just in case, I got to go somewhere or whatever. But I charge in my house. No big deal. You can change your amperage setting. So if you, have a lower amperage charger in your house, you don't want to burn your house down. And it won't burn your house down. But what it'll do is just not charge. I've had that happen at my parents' house where they only have a 20 amp plug, and leaving it set at 48, it would say it was starting to charge, and then it would fail. And if I set it down to about 18 amps, it charges just fine. Obviously a little slower, but it still charges. And you can schedule whatever time you want to schedule your charging. So that's kind of what I do. Is I usually set mine for about midnight, 12:05, I think is usually where I have it, and I set it to stop at 6:30. So when I charge at home, it's charging during the night, off-peak hours, so it costs a little less, and that works out pretty well. So this system is actually really good. You have your drive, you have your steering feel, light, standard, firm. I usually prefer standard. Some people prefer firm, that's fine. You got your traction control, one pedal drive, off, lower, standard. Standard is obviously the strongest regen braking, and that's the way it should be. Creep should always be off. I don't know why anyone would turn it on an electric car. It makes no sense to me. I don't even know why they even offer it, because I guess maybe to make gas drivers feel more at home, but I think it's dumb. You have all your driver assistance, your driver support, your adaptive cruise, lane keeping, all that good stuff, ready to drive notification on. So it's good, especially for people that like to look at their phone when they're at stoplights, which I don't recommend. I think that's a terrible idea. I never actually do that. But my wife, who is not sitting in the car right now but is with me, she tends to do that, and it drives me insane. In order to charge. And then under more, you have your car status and no warnings, all good. Service. So this is a brand new car. So service recommendations, 672 days or after 19,000 or 18,635 miles. So this is another reason to get an EV. You don't ever need to service it except every 2 years or almost 20,000 miles. It's crazy. And my car never required any service. The only reason I brought it in today is because it was scheduled. It was it's been 2 years. So it's fantastic. Obviously, this is not my car, so I'm not signed in. I don't have my phone connected, but Apple CarPlay comes up here if you connect your phone. You can still use Bluetooth if you want. It'll play your music, all that stuff. And then you have different apps. This car being brand new probably doesn't have a whole lot of apps installed, but you can install apps from the Google Play Store. Not all of them. It's a pretty limited amount, but and they're usually ones. There's some games to play when you're charging, I guess. YouTube is on there now. Works pretty well. So Waze is actually a native app, which still doesn't work perfectly well, but nonetheless, this is a really good system. It's snappy. It moves along pretty quick. You know, when you're in the maps, again, it's Google Maps. So, I mean, it's right with you the whole time. It's very quick, very handy, and it's Google Maps, so you can't really go wrong with that. And then this car, being a base model, it does have heated seats and heated steering wheel, but it does not have a cooled steering or cooled seats. But again, you can't have everything. This is a pretty moderately priced car, considering all the stuff that you get in it. It's also got a digital dash in front of the steering wheel, which is nice. So I should have parked it a little better. But yeah, pretty much tells you everything you need to know. When you put the car in drive, you can have a maps view right in there. Gives you your turn-by-turn directions. So pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. And you can see, there you can see 17 miles on this car right now. Brand spanking. You have your park button. And actually this car is cool because if you have the car in drive and you can just pull up, and when you open the door, it'll put it in park. You don't even have to put it in park. You probably should, but you don't have to. And because it's an electric car and this is 2024, there is no start-stop button. When you get in, put your butt in the seat, it is ready to go. The whole view. Back seat. That's an awesome car. So the 2024 Polestar 2. What a great car. I love this car. I love mine. The 2024 is very similar to that. Again, other than the front fascia, it's basically the same design, in and out. Not much has changed. It's an awesome, awesome car. So for 2024, you have three choices. Long range single motor. That is 0 to 60 in 5.9 seconds, 299 horsepower, and a top speed of 127 miles per hour, and a range of 320 miles EPA. The long range dual motor. That one, 421 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds, and a range of 276 miles. Again, EPA. And then you have the top of the line, the king of the Polestar 2s, the dual motor with performance pack, which is what I have, my 2022. That one has 455 horsepower, 0 to 60 in just 4 seconds, and a range of 247 miles EPA. Now I can tell you, having a dual motor performance pack myself, 2022, I was able in, I believe it was December of 2022, I was able to buy a performance upgrade. So the car originally came with 408 horsepower. I was able to pay for an upgrade that got up to 472. So the 2024 model, that's not a thing. It just comes at 455 horsepower. So it's a little bit less than what I was able to purchase for mine, but really that's not much of a difference. It's still a 0 to 60 time of 4 seconds, which is what mine is. And as far as the range, this EPA rated range of 247, when I got my Polestar 2 in 2022, had an EPA range of 240. I think we all know electric cars very rarely meet their EPA rated range. I know mine does not, and it doesn't help that I rip it and I drive it crazy fast. Well, not crazy fast, but I drive it fast, and I do tend to rip it. So I probably get somewhere in the range of 210 to 220 miles of range on my 22 Polestar. So I believe it's probably going to be about the same with this car. You can usually expect a roughly 10 to 20% difference in the EPA rated range versus real range in the real world, because people don't drive like the EPA tests. And in New England, to be honest, these roads here, when you're on the highway, you're speeding up, slowing down, because there's just the lanes are, most of our highways are 2 lanes, some have 3. You always get the people that think that the passing lane is the slow lane and you got to get them out of your way, slowing down, speeding up, so you're using more energy. This car does have pilot assist, which does work fairly well, but It is only pilot assist. It is not anything close to self-driving at all. When you use it, you have to have cruise control on. And basically, you have to keep your hands on the wheel. You have to be paying attention, and you have to keep some torque on the wheel, or it will turn itself off and say it won't assist you anymore. But when you have it on, if you're on the highway and you're coming up to a curve, it will turn for you. It will keep you in the lanes. Its lane centering is actually pretty good when you have the pilot assist on. When you don't have pilot assist on, the only real lane assistance you have is that it kind of gives you it buzzes and gives you a warning light on your dash that you're veering out of the lane. And if you veer too much, it'll tend to push you back a little bit, but it's not like it just keeps you holding in the center. It doesn't do that. So the pilot assist, like, to be honest, I rarely use cruise control because I like to drive, and this is a driver's car. That's the one thing about the Polestar 2. It's a driver's car. It's not a race car. It's not a car that you probably even really take to a track. It's a road car. It is a driver's car to drive on the road, to take road trips in. It's a great commuter car even, get back and forth to work, but it's a driver's car. So if you like to drive, if you're one of those people, put it this way, some of these people that are not quite accepting of electric cars yet and talk about how you love to feel shifts and you want to feel the car. Well, this doesn't shift, obviously, it's an electric car, but this car has a lot of feel. I mean, it is super fun to drive. I just know that I take some of my friends in this car, my wife, and when I decide to get a little squirrely, it scares the shit out of them. And that's what a good driver's car should do. It hugs the road, it holds it so well. When you're going around curves, driving this car, it's so much fun to drive. And I think that's really, if anything, that's the best thing about this car. Because again, it's not really a family car, maybe a small family. But for someone like me, I'm 50 years old. My kids are grown up. It's just me and my wife. I don't need a big car. I'm not an SUV guy. I don't want an SUV. I don't have anything against them. It's just not what I want. I like sporty sedans, and this car fits that bill to a T. And there's nothing quite like being at a stoplight next to some dope in his jacked up WRX or Civic Type R, or some kid in daddy's Beamer, at a light, and that light turns green, and I just say, "Toodles, y'all, I'm gone." And you just see the looks on people's face. They can't believe, like, what is this sort of unassuming looking car? How did it just blow me off the road? It does. It is super fun. Even if you don't get the performance pack, it's still super fun. It's got all the power you could ever need. It's just a great car. So if you're in the market for an electric SUV or tiny SUV or an electric sedan, especially a sporty type sedan, that's premium but not super luxury. That's really not where the Polestar fits in. It's not like super plush leather seats and, it's none of that. It's comfy, fun to drive, it's tight. This thing, my car, 2 years in I've had it, there's not a single squeak or rattle in that car. It is solid, tight, super awesome. I love mine. This 2024 model, I've only been driving it a little bit around town here just as a loaner car, but it's got the same feel. It's a great car. So if you're in the market for an electric vehicle and you don't need a big SUV, this is the one to look at. If you do need a big SUV, Polestar 3 is coming pretty soon. It's not huge, but it's big. It's good looking. I'll get a little video of that when I go back to Polestar. But yeah, this car, for the money, I don't think it can be beat, especially in the EV space. It's a super fantastic car. And again, it's not a Tesla. Nothing against Tesla. I love Tesla and I love Elon, really do. But when I got my Polestar, it's because I lived in a town, I think I've talked about this before, I live in a town with 16,000 people and I felt like 14,000 of them had Teslas. So it was a way to be different. And Polestar actually confirmed to me that the town that I live in, I was the very first person to buy a Polestar in the town that I live in. So I always have that claim to fame, I guess, if anybody ever wanted to know, which they probably never will. But I was the first one to get a Polestar, and so I still get questions on it. But especially when I first got it, like that first year I had it, almost any time I went to the grocery store or anywhere in town or anywhere, people would ask me about it. It's a little more common now. There's a few more people in the town I live in that have Polestars, which is super cool. But even still, I do get questions on mine a lot. When I stop places, some people will come up to me like, what is that? Because, you know, it only says Polestar on the little sticker on the door and inside the headlight casing. But, you know, there's no logo. There's just a logo on the car, but doesn't say Polestar across the front or the back. It's very subdued and sort of, just sort of understated. It doesn't scream, I'm a fast car, I'm going to blow you off the line. It's just smooth, beautiful. That's Swedish minimalist design. I mean, look at it. It's a beautiful car. So the final word on the 2024 Polestar 2 is that it is just as good as it ever was. It's not changed very much, just that front fascia, which I talked about. Don't really love it, but that's okay. It's not terrible. I just prefer the faux grille. But aside from that, it's obviously very familiar to me since I'm a Polestar owner. I just love driving this car. I love driving mine. It is a driver's car. Again, there's not a squeak or a rattle in mine after 2 years. And that speaks to the build quality, that it is a solidly built car, well-built car, tight. It's a great car. And I can't say enough about it. I love Polestar as a brand. Polestar 3 is coming very, very soon. And the Polestar 4 will be coming either towards the end of this year or early 2025 in the US. And that's the one that I'm really excited about. I think the Polestar 3 is beautiful. It's gorgeous. But it's an SUV, and that's not my thing. But I think in the American market, I think the Polestar 3 should probably do pretty well because the American market loves their mid-size SUVs. And if you're looking for a premium mid-size electric SUV, the Polestar 3 looks like that's probably the one for you. For me, I think Polestar 4 really kind of hits the spot. And I love the fact that it has no rear window. I just love that. I know some people think it's weird, but I love that. Love it. I love the looks of the Polestar 4. It's a little bigger than the 2. I can't wait for that car. That's good chance that's my next car. It'll probably be hitting the market right around the time I'm ready to turn in my Polestar 2 and upgrade. So might just be kismet that the car comes just in time. I don't know, we'll see. But in any event, the Polestar 2 is still fantastic. Highly recommend, 10 out of 10. And as we all know, EVs are awesome, and it's okay to be awesome. Kind of like my hair today. See you guys next time. Oh, look what we have here. The Polestar 3. Sweet. Look at that. That thing is good looking. Now I don't have any of my mics on, so the sound might be garbage, but let's take a little walk around. Ooh. Right in the metal. And this thing looks great in pictures, but in the metal, even better. Sweet. Let's take a quick look inside. This is just a prototype model. Can't drive it, unfortunately. But, ooh. Look at this. I like the bigger screen. I like the way the digital dash is mounted. 2 cup holders and storage under the armrest instead of 1 cup holder. Love it. Panoramic sunroof. All right, let's see here. Listen to that thunk. Oh, even for a prototype model. Really cool. You know, flat floor. This is a bespoke ground up EV. That interior. Pretty slick. And of course, your CCS. You know, next year it'll be an Axe. It's a fantastic looking SUV. This one's going to be a winner.